Hi and welcome back to the channel, and today we are taking a look at 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡. This is 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡 to the USDT. The weekly chart is where we are currently looking, and 𝗕𝗘𝗀 is our data source here. Now, for anyone using TradingView, you'll be able to replicate this. So again, just to log into your TradingView, search for 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡 against USDT, and this is the weekly chart on 𝗕𝗘𝗀's exchange. Okay, so obviously during this weekly chart, there's a few things we have to discuss, right, before we get into the here and the now. It's always good to make sure that we do understand where things are heading. And in terms of 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡 MTV, we've got some interesting price targets between 7.2 cent and 9.2 cent. But again, this is just based on what is currently inside the technicals, and it wouldn't take a lot of money to actually go and blast right past all of these targets. This particular altcoin is in micro cap coin, so therefore, you know, a very small amount of investment actually moves the needle in either direction, right? Either you're pulling money out of 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡 or you're putting money into 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡, and either way, it pushes the needle very significantly. With that being said, though, a major listing on an exchange such as Binance would see this thing go probably past the price expectations that we currently see here. And for those who are new to 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡, it is available now on 𝗕𝗘𝗀, obviously, but also the staking elements, right? So we've actually blasted past the 2 billion staked. There's now a 3 billion staking objective set there. And again, you get an airdrop of 5% of your holdings once those milestones are reached. And the returns, the passive income that you're going to earn from staking is actually quite lucrative as well. So for all those people who are currently staking, they'll obviously already know this. And for anyone who isn't, it is pretty good. I have recently delegated just before we actually hit the 2 billion. So yeah, that's fantastic to see. Okay, now on this weekly chart, obviously with the price expectation being 7.2 to 9.2 cent, again, we could blast past that. Obviously, the other thing that we have to acknowledge is the stochastic relative strength index. This particular RSI is approaching the overbought area. Okay, so we will be looking for a pullback with 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡 in the very near future. Something to this effect could happen, right? We can see here there was a small correction that basically allowed us to go back into the oversold before we blasted up here, right? And we've basically used a fair amount of our stochastic relative strength index with the motion that we've currently had so far. Okay, so there's still huge amounts of progress to basically continue to get to where we need to. So we are looking for corrections to allow us to do this. Now, this is obviously just the stochastic, which is more handy to look at it on the sideways trades than the kind of the trend lines, right? So we always like to couple this up with the relative strength index, and here we can see that we are approaching the overbought area and we're having the pullback now. So we'll be looking for a correction to the downside here just to correct things on the weekly chart. Now, that does not mean that the price has to actually go down. What it means is we need momentum to disappear, right? We need to see the volumes drop down. We need to see the trends change a little bit and sideways trading to occur. There will be a small price hit to this, and again, you'll be able to accumulate if that's your kind of game, or potentially, you know, sell and buy, etc. Right? So one thing is for certain is we're going to have a correction, and during that correction, there will be opportunities to buy and sell. But obviously, the bigger picture here is that we will be pushing right back up to the upside once that correction has finished. Okay, big picture. Now, when we actually drop down into our daily view, we can see that, again, we're up there, higher end, right? And we are looking to basically have a correction, right, in line with our weekly. But this is where we have to look at something slightly differently as well, right? Because this has been trading sideways for a little bit, so it's always important that we also acknowledge what's going on with the stochastic relative strength index. And here, because we are more sensitive to price, we can see that actually we're further down the line than we are just on a relative strength index, okay? So from this point of view, we can say that actually, yes, we are going to have a correction, but it's not going to be an overly severe correction, not as what is indicated with the RSI. Okay, so it won't take long, and we'll be right down into the oversold area, and then we'll be looking to push the price back to the upside. But again, the daily is in line with the weekly, saying that a correction here on the stochastic RSI is likely to happen. It is likely to happen with the price and potentially just continuing to sideways trade for a moment or two before taking that next step. Okay, and so in terms of what our expectations are for 𝗕𝗖𝗔𝗡, on the daily chart and the weekly chart, they are very much aligned to thinking that there should be a bit of a correction and a bit of a pullback. And this is, again, pretty common across many of these altcoins. I know it seems quite frustrating. and we've had good motion to the upside. People are buying in. But again, the corrections help us push further forward, push up the price later on. If you don't have them now, these corrections only come later, and sometimes they're actually more severe because they've been built up demand for it. So again, we are looking for some decent corrections to happen here, and that might take us into this area, this yellow box area, where again, that would be a pretty good accumulation area. We can see here that we basically haven't been in here, so we've just been wicking in. I will actually try to draw up some buy zones in the near future for multi-vac, and that's potential kind of corrections that we see. Now, on this daily chart, the other thing that we will need to acknowledge is obviously the resistance, right? So we can see there's a bit of a downward trend here. We can see that's forming pretty clearly. And again, we can find that the resistance is coming in at 10 or 1.02 cent, okay? Basically, we're just not no longer getting a closed candle above this position. Haven't done so since the 25th of August, okay? So this is indicating that this is a resistance line. Again, we can see that this was a resistance over here and over here. So again, this is a key area for us to try to battle our way through. And this comes in because we are obviously talking about going up to the 618, the 702, the 786 of the Fibonacci retracement tool, which is this yellow box area here. And we need to make sure that everything is kind of lined up and ready to go when we get there, okay? So we need to make sure that we can have enough momentum to push right the way through and push into the yellow box area here. And obviously, get the closed candle above, which is the aim of the game. Okay, so on the daily chart, everything's pretty much to our expectations at this point. There's nothing too different or alarming, and nothing should be concerning here. Okay, natural kind of correction, nothing to worry about. You can accumulate during this period. Now, when we took a look at the hourly chart, again, very much aligned to what we're talking about with the weekly and with what we're talking about on the daily chart, right? We are, of course, finding the resistance. It's actually a little bit higher. It comes in at 1.07 cent. And again, the other resistance line that we're currently kind of hoping to turn into a support would be 1.02 cent. Okay. Now, obviously, we are looking at the stochastic, saying that we're incredibly overbought. So again, we're looking for corrections to happen here for multi-vac to the downside. So very much aligned, right? All of these time periods are aligned to that thinking that we should be starting to see a correction. Now, in Bitcoin's the same, right? We see Bitcoin pushing up right now, which is why you saw this green candle on many of these altcoins as well. They're all pushing up right now. But Bitcoin is also incredibly overbought, and it's looking like it's going to have a correction as well. Okay, and when Bitcoin will go down, you'll pretty much be certain that most of these other altcoins will go down as well. It's a bit of a bull trap, maybe, if you will. But ultimately, what we're looking for is to know that we are pretty high, we're overbought, we're looking to lose that momentum out of our stochastic, out of our RSI, find support, and then trade in here until we can line up and push back to the upside, okay? And that will allow us to continue to grow to the upside in a nice, healthy way. Again, we'll take off the stochastic and we will throw on the relative strength index just to compare. Here we can see that we are approaching quite high. And again, we take a look at where things have been previously before starting to see a pullback, right? We take a look at this area here. This is basically this correction that you see coming in on this hourly chart. This took it down to a low point before we had this run up here. So again, it doesn't have to be a significant correction, right? It doesn't have to be huge, but we do need to see a correction come in. We could probably find a good bounce, and then maybe we push up from there, right? Timing is hard to see and to kind of tell how long things actually take, but this is an indication that we are looking to have a correction pull to the downside at some point. We haven't been overbought on MTV for quite some time, and again, the correction on the relative strength index to get down to this point took some time also, and obviously there was quite a bit of damage to price on that. Now, when we compare the volumes here, we can see there's some good buying volume, but it is still low. It's nothing as significant as what we saw over here or what we saw over here, right? So the volumes are low. So as long as the volumes stay quite low, that will basically help us trade sideways before going to break to the upside. If, however, we do get good or negative, I guess, depending on how you look at it, selling pressure, selling volume coming in here, then we will obviously correct our stochastic and our relative strength index very, very quickly. But we'll also do some damage to the price, right? And potentially coming right back into this yellow box area here. And again, this is an area that I think we're going to find very strong support on. So again, I wouldn't have a problem with buying necessarily down at this point, but I will do some specific videos on that in the future. Okay, so otherwise, I think for the most part, we should be pretty much comfortable with a bit of a pullback in the very near future. It's really hard to say for timing, but within the next 24 hours, I would expect that to happen. And then in doing so, we should hopefully line up within the next 1 to 2 days or so to really start to have some good corrective action go back to the upside. Now, the only issue with that, or the only thing we have to be mindful of, is back on the weekly chart with where we are currently sat, both from a relative strength index and, of course, that stochastic relative strength index, okay? Because both of those are telling us that actually we need a longer term correction to allow us to continue to grow, right? But with that being said, it could be 1 to 2 weeks, and then we go back up into this overbought area. Now, being overbought, this can be sustained for quite some time, given the fact that we are entering into September, the month historically for kind of corrections to occur. And again, thinking about the bull run kind of peaking out towards the end of the year, this would basically mean that we'd have a multi-week kind of correction potentially on the horizon for many of these altcoins, MTV included. But hopefully, guys, you have found this brief update on MTV useful and informative. If you have, then do go ahead and hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new, subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will not miss another update for MTV. Guys, with this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.